trying to determine whether we could start without a city person here other than ourselves. Okay. Welcome, everybody, to the City of Ojai Historic Preservation Commission. Today, Thursday, September 12th. Are you going to do roll call for us then, please?
Yes. Commissioner McHatton?
Here.
Commissioner Convery?
Here.
Commissioner James?
Here.
Commissioner McCready?
Here.
Vice Chair Quinn? And Chair Akins?
Here.
Thank you.
And we're grateful for City Manager James Vega being our multi-hat liaison tonight. Stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Great. Public communications. Members of the public wishing to address the Historic Preservation Commission on items appearing on the agenda are requested to complete a speaker's card and file it with the secretary. Cards are available in the council chambers lobby. All comments should be limited to 3 minutes unless additional time is granted by the chair. Speakers should state their name and address for the record and must direct their comments to the chair, not the audience or press. While the Historic Preservation Commission is in session, members of the commission, city staff, and members of the audience are expected to maintain order and decorum and to obey the orders of the chair. Sounds so official. Okay, museum rep is on my phone. Okay, photos. The museum update. It was sent to me as I was driving. So just some items that are going on with our museum. Third Friday is coming up this next week, September 20th, and at that time, Gail Childress will be painting in the museum. So we invite all to come and attend that and to watch it, Gail, who does beautiful work. It's free admission, and there are always snacks there, so it's a nice time. The museum has been getting quite a variety of folks that come in on the third Friday, including lots of families, so that's always nice. Upcoming town talks on Sunday, September 29th, 4:30 to 6. The process of origins, how artists process the theme and their artwork. Origins is the theme that was selected by the Ojai studio artists in the exhibit that's currently up at the museum. Following that, there'll be another town talk, which will be Sunday, October 6th from 4:30 to 6, and this will be on the history of Ojai studio artists. So, exciting things going on at the museum, and different support than the museum's providing as our historical archive. Consent items. Minutes of the August 8th, 2019 regular meeting. Are there any changes that folks have?
I had none.
I am going to do my best Pat Dorner interpretation. On the last page, under adjournment, there should be a space between Akins and adjourned. Pat would be happy to hear that. The other thing is, under item number 3, right?
Oh, right.
Yeah. Under item number 3, it says, Chair Akins reviewed a newspaper article about Elizabeth Rose and David Temple. Actually, it was reviewed a biography in the book about Elizabeth Rose and David Temple, and that's the book that they put together for the Thomas Fire. That's the only changes I have. Anyone want to make a motion?
I make a motion we approve the minutes as amended.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, at this time, we'll move to discussion item number 2, Annual Historic Preservation Awards for 2019. City Manager Vega, do you have anything for us?
Just a brief report just so people watching understand, I guess. So We had, at the August 8th meeting, the commission discussed the nominees for the annual Historic Preservation Awards and selected Teese Quinn, Cindy Convery, David Temple, and Elizabeth Rose for the Historic Preservation Award, and Rose Boggs and Craig Walker for the Historic Preservation Lifetime Achievement Award. So the resolution to make that recommendation formal is before you for approval.
Great, thank you very much. Just on my part, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Oh, I have one, so I'm okay.
Okay, so 3 of these going this way. These are changes that Rose Boggs made, or edits perhaps to the biography that Cindy provided for her. And I had called Rose and left a message. Did not hear back from her, but heard from Mark Lewis, who transported the envelope to the museum and then was given to me so I could distribute it at our meeting tonight. So I am guessing that Sherry will go through that and make the adjustments that
Yes,
are
we can make
necessary on that.
those corrections, assuming everybody approves those.
Okay, so that's the first item. I did call, again, I also called Elizabeth Rose and advised her and let her know and told her what the steps were going forward, and also talked to Craig Walker and talked with him also and advised him. And they were both very, very pleased, very, very happy, very appreciative. Craig was a little bit in awe that he was actually being recommended at the same time as Rose Boggs. I think she's been a mentor to so many in talking about the history of the Ojai Valley. So what we have before us then is what would go to the city council. It also has all of the biographies. There was one small change that I noticed, again, channeling Pat, under Craig Walker, attachment A, page 5 of 7. Way down at the bottom right corner, Craig received our prestigious award. Somehow that ended up as a T and a space.
Can I add something to that?
Yes.
Can we name the award? I didn't name it, and that was the one thing that when Craig read it, it just says our prestigious award. Could it just say the Historic Preservation?
Oh, you want to edit the information that
Yes, I
you
just want
provided?
to name the award. That,
Yeah,
okay. Yes,
yeah, that sounds good to me, so.
thank you.
And they've referred to it in other places, but I think that's great. So insert name. Okay, great, thank you. Other changes other than the one that?
Sherry's going to correct Rose Boggs, correct? That's
Yes,
true?
she
Okay.
is, yeah.
So that's already done. No, I don't have anything.
I thought it was fascinating information to read on everybody. I was going to see if on YouTube I could find This Place Matters. Is that on YouTube?
Does it say that? No, it was a presentation and
What?
a project with PBS.
Oh, did it?
They
It
haven't
didn't-
produced it.
It didn't come to
Yeah.
fruition. Oh, okay. I was intrigued to see that. I love those kind of programs. Any other changes, Darwin? Valerie? Okay. Do we have a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve as amended.
Or, yeah, approve.
Second.
You can take roll
You're
call
the
first,
secretary
please.
today. Yeah. Commissioner McHatton,
Yes.
Commissioner Convery,
Yes.
Commissioner James,
Yes.
Commissioner McCready,
Yes.
and Chair Akins.
Yes. That's okay. Yeah, that's fabulous. So then this will go to the city council. Do you know when? Do you have an idea when?
I was just writing a note to ask Sherry if we do them a certain meeting every year or not, because we could do it at the first meeting in October would be the earliest we could do it. So I'm not sure if there is like a preferred time.
Typically, from us, they go to the city council.
Right.
And the city council has to, give the approval.
Right.
And the typical date, just customary, has been the first meeting in December.
Oh, okay.
when they give out the
Oh,
awards.
to give the actual awards.
That's
Okay.
what it says here.
Yeah, so we can probably do the approval at that first meeting in October.
And there, I think there's a bit of a lag time because as we saw with Terry Hill last year, they were getting some supplementary information and also family that wanted to be here for that
Yeah. Okay.
recognition.
Cool. So we'll plan to do that in October, and then that will give time for the actual presentation in December then.
Great.
Cool.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Discuss quarterly reach out. Do we have anybody we're reaching out to? This was an item that Gina had brought up at the last meeting.
Yes.
A great idea.
So what I was thinking was, we have our one function a year that we do, the Ojai Jail, and it's always really successful, and people learn about us at that one event. But I was just hoping that we can have people learn more about Ojai history and historic preservation through other events. If we could do like a quarterly event. I know the museum does a walk, but it's not our historic landmark walk. And maybe if we had our own that we kind of put out there to the community once a year, that we did a walk with our landmarks. And then I think reaching out to either teachers or students and teaching our youth about historic preservation, knowing what historic buildings we have here and architects and why it's significant and why it's important to preserve. I think that would be really important. And then I was thinking maybe if we are talking about our downtown core being historic, maybe putting something out to do some sort of a art event where we ask children, students of all ages to maybe create the arcade in paint, sculpture, on Minecraft, whatever they want to do, and then we would maybe have a small monetary award that we could do for them once a year to get our students and our community looking at the arcade differently, looking at Ojai differently, more from a preservation standpoint, and so that's just kind of where my head was at with that.
Yeah, and that's interesting because actually I don't know how tight the agreement is with the City of Ojai Art Commission, but the city does, in working with them, do artwork on the walls in the city hall, and then the museum also has a joint location that they do in concert with them. So I don't know if it could expand to us seeing different artwork on that's representative of the community. I think that's a great idea to explore.
Okay, I will continue to explore. If anybody has any ideas, just email me.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see. Moving down the agenda. Okay. So the ad hoc committee, which is now Gina, myself, and Cindy, met on Monday, and Gina is going to give us an update on that.
So we met for the first time as a combined ad hoc. We discussed the best way to proceed. We are working to understand the area that the HPC agreed upon. We are looking at addresses and owners and renters and the age of the building, the historical significance, like if it already has a report or preservation status, and whether it's contributing or non-contributing. This is a long process, and we're in the very early stages. Before we can go ahead to the city council or property owners, we need to understand it ourselves, which is why we have an ad hoc. In the meantime, so just be patient as we try to figure this all out. People ask about it, please simply answer that we have an ad hoc working on the discovery process and that it's too early to speculate. But the HPC is working and will always work to keep Ojai valuable. And we will meet again on Monday, October 7th.
Excellent. Any other questions, Darwin, Valerie, on the ad hoc committee?
No, just on the non-contributing properties, how are you going to be treating them in the historical district?
Well, I think I suggested that we basically have three categories. We have a yes. I mean, there's certain places we already know just because there are our own landmarks or historic reports that have been done that are historic. There's some places that maybe to the eye, my suggestion would have somebody just moved a trailer onto property within the historic district. I'm pretty sure they're a no. And then there are, based on, all of the work that Gina's been doing, there are a lot of unknowns. And so,
I mean, once you determine which is which, that's what I'm saying, then how are you going to treat them within the historic district?
The ordinances and the guidelines will probably meet more from what the city already has put in place. We are more concerned about it as a district and our contributing properties. The non-contributing will already has to go through a process if they're within the downtown area anyway. It's not going to change that much for them.
Yeah, what's the interesting thing is contributing properties, whenever they get a tax break, so any of the fees that they.
No, this is the district.
Oh, district.
Yeah.
But they get a tax break in a historic district.
No, you have to apply for it and get a Mills Act contract.
yeah, I think that's
You
correct.
can do that, though. That's what I'm saying. Anyway, I'm not here to argue. All I'm saying is that, a non-contributing property can't apply for a tax break.
Right.
And therefore, I don't think they should have the same fees.
There won't be any fees.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. One question that came up, let's see. I never know how information pierces my brain. One thing we're looking at kind of goes along with the guidelines you mentioned, I think, in talking to Sherry, is that the Planning Commission has been hearing recently, there are actually, I think, 4 guidelines that are within the city, maybe 5, 2 of which deal with design guidelines, 2 of which deal with the arcade and the arcade itself, and they're very detailed and something that we'll, of course, want your help with, Darwin, when we're getting into all those technical design guideline type things. But they're already in place. There was a meeting at the Planning Commission on whether to expand the downtown or the arcade guidelines. I read through they kind of put it together, but they left a space in between East Ojai guidelines. And so there was a discussion that was going to take place at the Planning Commission. I didn't have a chance to look at that yet.
The Planning Commission did make a recommendation that is scheduled to go to City Council at the end of October or early November, but I don't recall exactly what the recommendation was. But they did look at, I think there's 5 design guidelines, and I think the 2 that apply to the arcade are the arcade design guidelines and the redevelopment district design guidelines.
It's too different.
Yeah, which is part of the confusion. We're looking at a couple things, trying to clarify and maybe look at a way where we can get rid of, tie these 2 together or something to get rid of having 5 different sets in the city. So that's what we're working on. Trying to clarify it.
And that information is available in the agenda that was given to the planning commissioners at their May 1st meeting. And so if you go in there, you'll see, there we go. So I grabbed these and printed them out for a meeting on Monday. If you go in there, you'll see downtown, and then you'll see these different quadrants. The reason I bring it up is, again, there already are design guidelines that are within the historic district outline that we did. Thank you, Gina. In fact, I think probably within that historic district, maybe all 5 of those are in there. But if you go to the May 1st Planning Commission agenda, you can see where they're all laid out.
No, I just think that before we do a historic district for a core area like this, it would be good.
Is your mic on?
It would be good to know,
There we go, thank
there
you.
were some excessive fees that were got into the code by accident, I guess. So it would be good to have those all straightened out before we.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
it's good to know both, as you said, historical, non-historical.
For them to know what they're getting into, yeah.
Right, there won't, it's not like that with the historic district. That is more with the planning commission and their guidances, but it's not, I don't see why there would be fees.
Can I address
Of course.
this?
Please.
Landmark properties, like the Taormina District, they came before us and they had to go through the historic review because it's a landmark historic neighborhood, right? So a lot of the properties in the downtown core are actually city-owned. So they don't have any tax benefit, or that they wouldn't want a Mills Act contract because they're not paying taxes. It's a city-owned property. So that's one element to understand. Non-contributing buildings aren't going to be subjected to landmark requirements or historic requirements because they're.
I'm not talking about the requirements, I'm talking about the fees.
Those
You know what
are
I'm
the
talking
fees.
about. You know
Well,
what I'm
okay,
Yeah.
let me change the word from requirement to fees, because they're not historic properties, they're not landmark properties. They're in a historic district, so they can't go off and paint the building,
Again, I'm
hot
not
pink or
talking about
something.
the
I
requirements.
think-
I mean, they're
Yeah.
limited
Maybe
to
he can
design
explain
review.
Yeah, I
it
think
to
the
you.
fees that Commissioner James is referring to, and I was going to update the HPC on this, so if I could do this kind of now just to give an update, even though it's a little out of order. But at a recent council meeting, the council asked for a report on the fees associated with minor work permits, major work permits, and then there are no fees for ordinary repair and maintenance, but also asked for a report on the difference between minor work permits, major work permits, and ordinary repair and maintenance. And so we did a little bit of discussion at the last council meeting, or actually the one before this most recent, the one at the end of August. But ultimately, they asked for a more in-depth and thorough report back on it at the first meeting in October. So we're working that. We're going to bring that back,
So we
and
can
we're
go to
going to
that meeting.
and we're going to talk about the differences between the ordinary repair and maintenance, minor work permits, major work permits, and then make sure everybody's in agreement on the fees for those. Because the fee schedule that the city adopted a few months ago charged one fee for major or minor work permits, and it was something like $450 or $700.
Or even to put a screen door in.
Yeah,
there. So
yeah,
I
so-
don't think people would be happy with
Yeah,
that.
yeah. So we're going to bring a report back on that, and then work with council to clarify exactly what those categories are.
Yeah.
So if the district, assuming that the district would be subject to the major work permit, minor work permit requirements, that could be one question that we hope to clarify by then. So.
Okay, great, thank you.
Oh, do you want to back? Thank you so much. That was really nice looking.
Thank you, Gina. Another thing that came up in that discussion at the city council meeting, I think that was August 27th, was the fact that and I mentioned this briefly just because I was trying to get, in our last meeting, I was trying to give an example of where someone had said, how do we find out about permits that are taking place? And so we said basically, John Lambert was the one who had called me. So if somebody wants to know about major work permits that are going to come before the HPC, they just need to sign up and get the HPC agenda sent to them, which is a normal, ordinary thing. And the example was the item that we talked about at the last meeting, and adding that kind of extension to the house. For a minor work permit, that's kind of buried a bit more down into the bowels. And the example that I'd heard of a minor work permit, and I just brought it up as an example, we took no action on it, was somebody who was removing their concrete driveway and repaving it, or replacing it with pavers.
Asphalt driveway, replace it with.
Oh, yeah, thank you. And so that was just a minor work permit. For somebody to find that, there's no way to get automatic notifications. They have to go to the city council website. And so we took no action on that. However, just a point of interest, that at that meeting, we were excoriated, we the HPC, for holding up projects in Taormina that was outside our purview and our authority. It was disturbing because, of course, we did none of those.
I
But
don't think the city did it, right? Yeah.
right, we had nothing to
Had
do with
nothing to
it,
do
but it
with
was just the speaker who was not one of our fans.
Yeah,
That was,
that's not, I mean, you have
Going
to
after us.
check your facts before. you-
yep. Was there any other items that affected us in the council meeting?
The other one, maybe I shouldn't say anything. The pickleball courts is the
Ah,
other
yes.
one that is just an update is that the city council has authorized the moving forward of the repaving the current tennis courts here at City Hall and striping them for pickleball. So that project is approved at this point. So we're getting bids to do that. So you know, obviously the Smith Hobson estate is landmarked. So we brought that up, and the overall feel was that their tennis courts being used as pickleball, which are very similar, and that it's not a substantial change. So.
Yeah, and the other observation, well, two observations. One was nobody knew where the tennis courts were here.
People still don't.
Hello. It's that direction. And two, don't walk on them in the dark because it's worse. It's the worst parking lot you've ever been on. So to have them basically refurbish that into something that was not going to be a problem from a liability standpoint and actually being used during the day for a pickleball court. I had to look up pickleball court and watch a YouTube video on what a pickleball.
It's a combination of like tennis and ping pong, and the idea is it's tennis for. What they say is it's tennis for when you get older and you aren't able to run the courts, that you can do pickleball and not have to run as much.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. So.
They actually have a couple pickleball courts out at Sewell Park, on this end of it. So it was interesting.
Yeah.
I like that somebody was actually going to be using our landmarks, and that, as they said, it was part of their responsibility to maintain landmarks, and that was a worthy expenditure of city money. I think it ended up passing after a lot of discussion, passing unanimously. Thank you, James. Other things. Let's go to the agenda. Anything, future agenda items?
Do I usually report these? So we have Ojai Day coming up on October 21st. And then, like we talked about, we'd probably do take the recommendation for the Historic Preservation Awards at one of the October meetings to be approved by council, and then ultimately present the awards at the December 10th. So that it is listed here. So we have those planned, and then we just have the pending list of projects.
Okay, and proclamation to the Smith family?
Yeah, so we're currently planning that at one of the 2 October meetings. It's penciled in at one of the 2 October meetings, and I am pretty confident we'll be able to get it on one of those meetings. We're kind of moving things around, but we should be able to do one of those 2 meetings.
Great, thank you.
And I think just one more point is I think that the clerk's office has contacted representatives about attending one of those 2 meetings.
Nice, thank you. Yes, Commissioner McCatton.
So on our October 10th meeting, can we put Ojai Day discussion so we can make sure we got all our
Yes.
jails in a row?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's always fun to have everybody there. And also contact our Ojai Sheriff vehicle individual. That should take place before October 10th, if it could. James,
Oh, yeah.
please.
Okay.
Great, thank you. We even had his grandson, maybe grandson, we'll go with grandson, taking pictures in front of the car last year. Didn't realize that's who it was that was there. Other questions on planning report? We currently have a vacancy. Is there any action taking place? I know that's under the mayor's responsibility.
So they had just finished interviews for the last couple vacancies. So we have sent an email notifying the mayor that there is a vacancy, but I have not heard of any scheduled yet to fill it. So
Okay.
I'll follow up with them.
How about
Okay.
Craig Walker?
2 of us independently.
I was with him today at our board meeting, and I literally got on my hands and knees.
You literally what?
I was on my hands and knees. Please, what can I do? But it's just, I was telling him that we do have members that, and we don't talk in between because of Brown Act, and we can just come to the meeting and weigh in and have a vote and have his weight of being a historian to help us. But he says that's just so not him. If he's in it, he's in it, and he can't just come to a meeting. It's not his personality, and
does
he knows
better
that about
not.
himself, and
Yeah, probably.
and it's just a little much for him. But I don't know, still working on him.
And I talked to him a few weeks ago, and there's still items that are, he thought about it, he was going to talk to Debbie about it, and then when I talked to him again, he just said there's still a few items that are preventing him from being able to do something like that.
Okay,
I think I contacted him pretty much
every day.
every time there's an opening. So, yeah, but as he said to Commissioner McCann, he really enjoys coming and helping and doing what he can in full support of the
Maybe you can do
Historic
more on the
Preservation
outside.
Commission.
sometime.
sound like he's happy to do that.
Yes.
And Elise had mentioned too that there may be items that she's able to help with remotely.
Yeah.
She is still planning on working on a brochure for the Ojai jail and was hoping to have that before Ojai Day. So that would be nice.
She did say that she was going to be in contact.
Yes. Anything else?
Any Ojai historians out there who want to be on our commission? I think just having going from, we have Craig Walker and Rose and Terry and Elise, it's just having that historian figure. It's nice, so.
Yeah.
Anybody
Is
out
Drew
there?
Mashburn still on Parks and Rec? He should be.
I don't think he was ever on Parks and Rec.
What
No,
was
I
he
don't
on?
think so.
He wasn't on anything. He applied for the Historic Preservation Commission, and it was suggested in council meeting that Parks and Rec might be a more fitting location for him.
No, he should be on this.
And so,
He knows, Drew Mashburn. He knows everything about Ojai that ever happened.
yeah, he grew up here. He was a ranger here.
Got
He's,
the, you're from Ojai When Facebook page. He's really, Craig knows him. He would be great.
yeah, I know Drew really well.
You want to
Craig
ask
suggested
him?
him again today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll talk to
so-
Drew and see
oh,
where he's
okay,
at.
yeah,
He has
that'd be
applied
good.
before.
I know, and for some reason, that he should have been. He's excellent. Anyway,
What can I say?
try it
It's
again.
out of our hands. Any other items? City Manager Vega, anything else? Any other hats you?
I think we just reported out on the most recent happenings, so I don't have anything else to report.
How about the historic report ongoing before the city council for the theater?
The Playhouse Theater?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I don't know that that's been scheduled, so I'll follow up on that.
Okay.
I didn't see it on the list.
Is it still up for sale? Or
I'm looking at City Manager Vega, who knows the inside scoop, but not sure what he can reveal to us.
Yeah, we haven't had any update from them in the last 3 months, so I've heard rumors, but I don't have any firm update on it.
I saw him in the parking lot. He said he's done.
Who?
Done. I saw him in the Khalid.
Oh, uh-huh. Yep. Yep. Yeah, I haven't heard anything in that time frame either. Darwin, anything else?
I don't have anything for you.
So how are you enjoying your second stint in history, the county cultural group?
Cultural Heritage Board,
Uh-huh.
it's very much the same process as we have here,
They have a lot more
but
information.
more interesting projects.
Does that mean you enjoy it or you don't enjoy it? I'm just kidding.
I'll let that lie.
Yeah, I'm on the mailing list, and they have an amazing amount of information that they provide on different ones I've seen, so. And you've finished with the Thatcher School. That was months and months in the process. So good. I'm glad you're on that. Anything else? Okay. We'll adjourn. Thank you all.
I like the lined paper.